Hello everybody, and welcome to my broken file browser because KDE has some weird bug that I haven't figured out yet. Okay, today we are just going to be making an LMMS plugin, just entirely in this video, and I don't feel like I have much else to say. That's just what we're doing. So I asked around for what kind of synthesizer or effect I should make, and the conclusion basically wound up being some simple distortion effect, since LMMS really lacks a decent distortion effect in any way at all. The few that it has I don't think are even oversampled, so that certainly isn't great. So usually when I make an effect, I start with cloning, just copying and pasting an effect that I've already made, so that I already have kind of the template to go with. And right now I'm going with dispersion because it's a simple effect, and unlike amplifier, it actually follows LMMS's modern code style guidelines, while amplifier does not, which really should be fixed. Let's see. We already have Steve. I'm thinking, no, probably not Stanley. George, right? George. See, I always overthink the naming of the plugin. George. His name is George now. Now, this is kind of the most obnoxious part. I have to, yeah, all my GUIs right now, all these windows, they're bugged. They aren't supposed to look like this. Something's wrong with the double scaling, because I have a 4K screen, and every time I boot up my computer, there's like a 50-50 gamble with whether it'll work. If I were to reboot right now, it's quite likely it would just suddenly start working again. And then if I reboot it again, maybe it'd break again. Who really knows? George. Okay. Rename all of those to George. But yeah, this is kind of the most annoying part. You kind of have to go through and rename everything. See, this is bugged too. This is too small. It's supposed to be larger and easier to read, and the buttons are supposed to be larger, but this part looks fine, so that's good. Close that out. That's for another plugin I'm working on. Well, except for that last one. And it'll still say dispersion within this thing everywhere. There's a certain command that can probably speed this up. I'm clicking on this, please listen. I normally use GNOME instead of KDE, but there's a bug in the latest version of GNOME that makes it so that LMMS just doesn't work. The drag and drop is broken, so I'm forced to use this. It may have been fixed already, I don't know. Let's see. Find and replace, boop. Right, that's the thing I'm looking for. I can never remember this command because I've only recently started using it instead of doing it all manually. I should have been doing this forever ago. So if this part's confusing, just feel free to ignore it. All I'm really doing is the lazy man's way of doing find and replace with everything. So we want to replace dispersion with George. And the lowercase as well. This is working, right? I hope so. And then the capitalized version. should be everything. It'll ask me to reload all those since they have been changed, and ideally it should say George, George, you know. Already has my info in there and everything. It's not an all pass filter. It's a distortion thingy. And I'll have all the knobs and stuff. If we go ahead and compile this, well, the first step is you need to add it to the plugin list. But once we do that, it should already compile, and it should behave exactly the same as the dispersion effect that I made. George. I hope this is recording. It is recording. Is my microphone recording? Looks like it. Good. Okay. So I don't have anywhere to mount my microphone, so it's just on me. It's laying on my stomach as I sit with incredibly poor posture. But I don't have anywhere else to put it, so it's just there. Okay, so now that that's in the plugin list, I can close that. Never need to worry about that ever again. I can come over to the build folder and make -J7, which will compile it with 7 threads. There is an error. Oh, we forgot to remove dispersion from here. So George, boom, 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 and a lowercase version there, and that should work. Make -J7 to compile it with 7 threads. The computer I'm using right now has 6, but adding one extra into the command makes it faster for some specific reason. I completely forgot what it was. There was some Stack Overflow post about it, but and reminder to stay hydrated. All right, I'm seeing a lot of weird stuff. That's not me though, that's some other file. Looks like that worked. So if we come in here, we should see George. Just get ourselves a saw wave. George, and it should be the same as the dispersion. Yay. Fun. Okay, so now we have our plugin here, but we need to make it do what it's actually meant to do. And usually for the first very significant stretch of development, the stuff on the GUI does not reflect what the plugin actually does, and that's because I am too lazy to fix the GUI, and there isn't really any reason to do so, because it doesn't matter if anybody knows what the plugin does until it's released. Obviously you want to make the GUI make sense before it's released, but beforehand it doesn't matter. Let's see. So I'm just going to kind of delete the parts of the dispersion effect that we aren't going to be using, like the all-pass filter. If we need an all-pass filter, we'll add it back in. What even is this? What's this for? See, I have a very bad memory. I made this plugin like a month ago, and I already can't tell it's happening. And I guess somebody convinced us to use a struct for the filter states when I generally just use just basic arrays. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of want to strip this of just about everything. Don't care about that. We'll keep the sample rate variable. once again, I'm just kind of stripping this down to the most basic the plugin can possibly be. So by the end, we'll just kind of have a bare bones plugin that doesn't actually do anything, which it is right now. Right. So this is kind of the main function. This is what runs to process the audio. So this is where all the magic happens. This buffer variable is the it works as both the input and the output buffer. So if we look at the contents of this right at the beginning, that's the input, that's the incoming audio to the effect, and then we can modify that same variable and it will be the output. So this loop right here, it loops through all of the frames of the current buffer. So it just loops through all the things that we need to process. To start off, I'm just going to aim for some very, very basic distortion, and then we will add on to it later. I'm not sure how long I plan for this stream to... I am a monster. I have looked at this so many times, I haven't even upvoted it. But what is wrong with me? I apologize. I'm going to be aiming for some extremely basic distortion at first, and then we'll add features onto that. There are several different functions people use. My favorite, I forget whether it's either ATAN or TAN-H. Well, it'd be arctan here, but I think it's hyperbolic tan or whatever it's called. And there's a specific reason for it. There we go. So this function kind of asymptotes to the... Oh, first I should probably explain what's going on here. With distortion, generally all it's doing is sending the waveform through a function. It's just an instantaneous remapping of the values in the waveform, and the values in a waveform are generally between -1 and 1, where -1 is the bottom, 1 is the top. So like a sine wave would look like this. You know, that shape's probably super familiar to you. And an amplitude of 1 or -1 would be 0 dBFS, and then half that would be -6 dBFS, and then half of that would be -12, and then -18, 24, you know, multiples of 6. So here's what I'm going to do. We'll keep using this sine wave. Oops, no, it's sorry, 2 pi. Okay, so we'll use the sine wave. Goes from -1 to 1, and a full cycle is just 1 here. And I'm going to run this through a function in order to distort it. So we have that as our G variable here, so I'll have another one. Y equals G, it's obviously the same thing. I'll disable that, and then we can run that through our distortion function, and you'll notice it's kind of been squished down a bit. We can add another variable here. I'll call it D. This will be our drive, which controls the input volume to the distortion. So obviously a volume of 0 will give you silence, and then the more you drive it, you see normally with without the hyperbolic tan, without the distortion, you're just changing the volume of the sine wave. It isn't warping in any way, just changing the volume. But once you add that, it now distorts it, and the louder the incoming audio is, the more it'll distort. And something I should say, I pardon for any lag in the display. For some reason, every video recorder I use makes my entire computer lag. Not really sure why. I'm using Simple Screen Recorder right now because that's the only thing that's slightly viable. OBS just destroys everything no matter what settings I choose. But that's why the display isn't super reactive here. But you can see what's going on. And as you're probably familiar with, you overdrive it a ton. In the case of basic distortions like these, you get something pretty close to a sine wave. Square wave. So that's how that works. And the reason I prefer this, a lot of people use ATAN, arctan in this case, but my problem with that is that it ends up at this weird spot, 1.5708 whatever. Let's fix that. While with the hyperbolic tan, I hope that's what it's called, right? I'm pretty, I'm like 100% certain, but I'm, right? Yeah, okay. I've just never said it out loud before. I've never really said anything out loud, so I'm second guessing everything I'm saying, even though it's all obvious basic stuff. But anyway, hyperbolic tangent. It goes up to 1, which is super convenient. You know exactly where it's going now. So I generally prefer that. I'm not sure why arctangent seems to be more common. Maybe there's a good reason for it, but I'm not aware of it. Either way, they sound essentially the same. So I just find this to be better. Anyway, I'll stop ranting on about that. So we have our input here, and I have it sent into this just S array. S stands for sample, I guess. I don't know. And it's an array because it holds both audio channels. So S0 would be the left channel, the audio in your left ear, and S1 would be in your right ear. So I'm going to make another loop so we do the same thing to both sides. So I equals 0, I is less than 2 because we have 2 audio channels. And then we can just do S of I. So it'll execute all the code in here, first with I equals 0, then with I equals 1. Then when I equals 2, it won't execute, it'll just exit because it demands that I is less than 2. I'm not sure if I don't know if there will be any non-programmers watching this, so I feel obligated to explain it. Though I guess it'd probably be good for me to explain it either way, or maybe not, I don't know. Let's see. So this is our current audio sample, and we can do whatever we want to it. I'm going to go ahead and I think that works. Like I said, my memory is very bad, so I kind of have to relearn everything every time I do everything, which sounds very inefficient, but I do make plugins, so I mean it works, I guess. Not sure of any better solution, but if we just do that, that's what we have, except without the drive. So see this frequency knob? I'm going to keep it named frequency, but I'm going to make it so that it's not for frequency, because I'm too lazy to change all the labels. So it says frequency. It's not a frequency knob, it's a drive knob, okay? Let's see. How do I want to do this? because I'm thinking normally you just have a default volume of 1. You multiply it by 1, so that doesn't change the volume. But then distortion would be applied even when drive is at 1, which might not be desirable. Maybe it is. But anyway, let's not fret about those things right now. So it says frequency. It's not frequency. It's drive. The variable says frequency. Ignore that. Ignore all of that. It's drive. I'm even going to name it here drive, even though it's the frequency variable. Shush. Quiet. Okay. So if we compile that. Everything breaks. Oh, right. We never tested it after we stripped all the features out from the dispersion, so might need to make a few changes here. Oh, no, looks like it works. Cool. So now if we load this up, it's just one line of code here within that loop we typed up, but it should already behave as a distortion effect. For it to be a good distortion effect, we're going to have to add a few extra hundreds of lines of code, but it should work. I apologize. You can see it distorting up there. I'm going to decrease the output volume and then increase the input volume. I will say, if you look at my LMMS copy and you're like, whoa, why are things so weird? Why are the effects short? And you're going to see a bunch of other things. What are those weird colored lines? My LMMS copy is very heavily modified with tons of features that will never be added. They're just kind of for me. Very non-user-friendly things that would never realistically make their way into the main program that I use all the time. So now this should be very distorted, as can be heard. So the plugin is working. Just with this drive knob. It says hertz, I'm sorry, ignore that. But it's working. Let's see what to do next. Bring that, oh, I should explain this. Once again, it's not frequency, it's drive. And I should be gone. It's drive. Okay, so here is kind of where it's initializing it's called the model, and the model is kind of it's the value behind the GUI widget that you're seeing. So you see the knob. When you move the knob, it's controlling a parameter. That parameter is this model here. The first number is the default value, so we have the default at 1. Next is the minimum value, which is 0. The maximum value, which we just set to 100, and then the step size, which I almost always set to a very, very small number because I want people to have as much control over over their values as possible. I guess we'll keep it there. So let's see, what's the next step? We have a distortion effect, but it's boring. What can we do to make it more exciting? I'm thinking of several ideas. I'm just trying to figure out which one I'm not too lazy to pursue currently. Probably... Huh. I would like to add one more distortion algorithm. I have this effect called Steve, which is a different distortion thing I was working on a long time ago, but I never made much progress on it. You know, this is only a few lines of code, but I still can't tell what I was doing back then. Like what is this supposed to be? So it increases the volume depending on... I don't know. I was thinking of pulling an algorithm over from there, but we'll just do something new. We have our drive knob. It's sent into a basic distortion, and I guess we will... Well, I guess the first step would be to have a demo project set up so that we can actually test this in a decent way. You know, just note spam and Mercury isn't exactly the best way to test out a plugin like this. So let's see. I'll just I really wish my double scaling would work on this full 4K screen with ZnetSFX, but it does not. Okay, something like that. How'd that sound there? Oops. That'd probably work better. Add some higher harmonic. Yay. You can hear my audio stuttering. I think that's because of my screen recorder. Anyway. If we had George. I think George is working. I'm pretty sure this is doing something to the audio. So, what should we do to the audio next? I don't know if I like this as a demo, though. It's a fairly simple sound. Can I put a whole song on here? I think everybody would stop watching the video if I use that one. I love that song, though. Something that we can just slap a distortion effect on. I mean, I don't know, would that work? This is a good song. Sorry if this is too loud. I might have some trouble editing George test. Might have some trouble editing the audio afterwards. You may hear this super loud audio and be like, "Yo, Daniel, what the heck? Why are you working with such loud audio?" The volume I have my computer at is very low at all times. I have things set up so that 0 dB FS, absolute maximum volume is comfortable listening volume, and I feel like that's kind of the way people should generally have things to keep their ears safe and all that. So I could turn this up all the way and okay, that hurt a little bit. I think YouTube loudness normalization will save you guys though, and probably the crappy audio compression that's going to ruin the audio quality in this video. What are all these windows? Oh, I still have Zenad Sub Effects open. Begone. I guess I'll... Okay, we have that saved as our demo project, so we can just quickly come into here and open that up whenever we change things in the plugin. Let's see. I think maybe a good next step would be to add oversampling. Normally I wait a while before doing the fancy quality stuff, but let's just get this nice sounding right away, because I don't think LMMS has any oversampling distortions other than maybe a few of the LADSPA things that come with it, but those aren't very good. So anyway, another reminder to stay hydrated. I'm just going to come look at this frequency shifter effect that I'm working on because I already have oversampling set up in here, and setting it up is very obnoxious. Right. So I'm using a library called HIIR, which is very, very cool. It uses elliptical filters, which are why are you not showing me the standard Wikipedia one? Elliptic, and then there's Chevy Chev, and the other one. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. Butterworth filters are what you see 99.9% of the time because they're designed to be as flat as possible here. So they warp the audio as little as possible in the areas where you don't actually want any filtering to occur. Chevy Chev has a steeper slope, but as you can see, it has these ripples, and then Elliptic has some rather drastic ripples, but has by far the steepest slope. If you're very smart with the way you design your elliptic filter, you can make it so that all that weird wonkiness is mainly within frequencies that you cannot hear. So the way HIIR works is it has these elliptic filters set up for reducing aliasing when you're to go with your oversampling. And since it's using these elliptic filters, it can get a very steep slope, which removes almost all of the aliasing, and it has it implemented in a very CPU-friendly way. So all this stuff is very complicated. I'm not going to explain all of it. If you're a developer watching this and you're curious of how to use this library, the HIIR library does come with README files in that folder. It should be in the folder that comes with LMMS, so you can just look at those and I'll explain some things. But here I just kind of have the passband calculation for those elliptic filters, and then I set them up here. just with 8 coefficients each. And I'm just going to be copying and pasting it over from this frequency shifter effect, because a lot of the code is obnoxiously long. I should probably add something to LMMS called like an oversampling helper or something like that, which does this for you. Let's see where we're at. Do we want that? No, it'd be here. Input, oversample in. The code's about to start looking extremely ugly, and I apologize for that. We'll just try to ignore the ugly parts and look at the pretty parts once once I have the oversampling properly set up. Let's see. So I'm going to have a knob called oversample, which will just toggle between no oversampling, 2 times oversampling, and 4 times oversampling. Obviously, it won't be a knob when the plugin's finished. I'll make it a drop-down box or something, but I'll just have it as a knob for now. So it does that, and then for our distortion code, we're going to want to execute that multiple times, because when we're oversampling, we're going to have multiple samples to process per sample. And here we have this oversample stage variable, which where is that? Hold on. Oh wait, it's it's created by the for loop. Input num, that's what I was thinking of. 2 to the power of the oversample value. So the way the knob will work when it's just a knob, and it'll work like this when it's a drop-down box as well. The first state will be 0, and then 1, and then 2. So to convert that into the number of samples we're actually processing with this oversampling, when the knob's at 0, that's no oversampling, so 1x, and 2 to the power of 0 is 1. If the oversample value is 1, that's 2 times oversampling. 2 to the power of 1 is 2, and then 2 to the power of 2 is 4, so on, so on. We only have it up to 4 right now, but we may increase that later. So we're executing that multiple times. This part just kind of sends it through those HIIR filters for the upsampling part, and then you'll see something similar for the downsampling. And hopefully that just works. We also need to actually have those variables set up, the actual filters, and we need to include those libraries to have those HIIR filters. And please listen to me. I don't like KDE. It has several bugs. I want to go back to GNOME. Right, we also need to add this in order to use HIIR. There we go. Oops. George. Okay, hopefully this just works. Oh wait, no it won't, because we need this oversample knob. And of course, with me being hilariously lazy, this resonance knob has now been colonized. It's for oversampling now. Float? No, it's an integer. it's peak laziness. No, it's oversample. It's for oversampling. I'm not going to rename the variables. Default value of 0, minimum of 0, maximum of 2 for now, step size of 1. It's oversampling. Okay. Hopefully that works. What? Oh, lowercase. Because that's what we have there. There we go. Okay. Load up that demo. Oh, wonderful. There's just no sound. There's just no sound at all. Maybe this can be fixed by actually looking at the code I'm copying and pasting. It's not stealing, it's my code. I wrote this code, it's just forever ago, and I'm too lazy to write it again. For obvious reasons, this is a lot. Inputs. Inserts the buffer into there. Has those set up properly. Oh, wait a minute. I have a suspicion. Hold on. I have stupid dumb idiot syndrome. That's the problem. Okay. Right. Outputs is our output variable here instead of s because so we have our input here, and it's being inserted into the oversampling filters, and it puts those into the inputs variable. Does it properly insert? Sorry, I'm just thinking through this for a bit. Well, I hope that's right. Inputs, that's the channel, and then no, there's no way. There's no way. Okay, apparently that's an obnoxiously long variable to be having there. I'm going to make that a smaller variable. Alright, well, I mean, we can just have stage, I guess. Okay, so this is our actual input. Because we have multiple inputs per input because we are oversampling. And then that's our actual output. And now it should work. Hopefully. All right, it compiled at least. Okay. It's clipping, so not sure if you can hear that difference. It's fairly subtle. I probably need something with more high frequency content for it to be audible. Wonder how audible it would be with a square wave. Oh, this might be very loud. There we go. Oh, that still feels loud. Well, I mean, would it matter with a wait, we're distorting. Okay, saw wave, sorry. Yeah, you hear that? And if we bring it to a higher frequency, this might hurt. I'm trying to keep it very low volume. Yeah, you definitely hear it there. So no oversampling. And when you turn it on, you can hear how without the oversampling you have some really ugly stuff going on the high frequencies. I hope we can see this in a spectrum analyzer, because I think it'd be cool to show you. As you can see, VSTs are kind of bugged on a 4K screen with LMMS. I've just learned to ignore it. Trying to figure out what to point out. Let's bring that like that. Something like that. And sorry if the sound is annoying. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of aliasing even with that, so it's kind of making this difficult to read. There we go. This should be easier. Yeah, so you can see there's just a ton of buzzy stuff around the everywhere. With the oversampling, it cleans it up quite a bit more, though unfortunately you do still have quite a bit of aliasing that you can see. There we go. That's a bit easier to parse. There's a... Okay. That versus... I'm sure you can both see and hear the difference. Oversampling is very important. I suppose I should explain this for those who don't know. There's probably a good image that'll help. Actually, no, we don't want that. We just want... There we go. So with digital audio, you have a limited sample rate, which is kind of the number of times per second you can feed and output to the speakers or headphones or whatever. And if you have a frequency that is too high, then the limited sample rate will not be able to reconstruct that wave properly. So here's an example of that. If you have a sample rate at the same rate as these blue dots, and the waveform you're working with is a sine wave with a frequency really, really high, so that it's kind of squashed between the two dots. As you can see, it is not reconstructing the wave properly. I think that's another example of it here. Well, now you can't see it. That's... Anyway, so with distortion, you're adding all these upper harmonics, and those in this case, we have what's called a symmetrical distortion, which is when it does the same thing to both the top and bottom half of the waveform, which we can see here. And because of that, it only adds odd harmonics to the signal. So in this case, the loudest harmonic it's going to be adding is the third harmonic, which is 3 times the frequency of the input audio. So if the input audio has, so we're working with a sample rate of 44,100 hertz, which means the highest possible frequency we can have is half of that, which is 22,050 hertz. So if you have a frequency in your sound anywhere that at like 10,000 hertz, the third harmonic of that is 30,000 hertz, which is above the highest possible frequency. So aliasing will cause that to reflect back downward. With the power of oversampling, we temporarily increase the sample rate to make it so that there's less aliasing. Fewer of those frequencies are reflected downward, because when they are reflected downward like that, it's inharmonic and it sounds very bad. As you could hear, it does not sound clean at all. It's just simply incorrect. It's not the goal of the audio plugin in the first place, and it generally sounds awful. And for every oversampling stage, every time you multiply the sample rate by 2, you're effectively giving yourself an extra octave of bandwidth to work with. Is bandwidth the right word? I don't know. Water. So we have oversampling now. It doesn't go as high as it probably should. Later on, I'll worry about allowing us to crank it up higher, but 4x oversampling for now is fine. We'll work with it. So now we have a functional distortion unit with oversampling. Let's see, what should we do next? I know at some point I'm going to have to add filters. I just hate programming filters. Is there more stuff I can copy paste from an effect I've already made? No. Aww. Yeah, there probably is. I just have to choose a different one. See, a lot of the plugin development I do consists of copying and pasting from code I've already written. Stereo Linkwitz Riley, is that the one we want to use here? I feel like I have a better option somewhere. Mercury, maybe? Mercury's getting kind of huge. We do have basic filters included. Well, I don't know whether we use it. I think we decided to stop using it at some point because the filters weren't doing what we wanted. Oh, well, we have that. Okay. Well, Linkwitz Riley again, just not stereo, and we probably want stereo, I guess. I don't like using libraries for much of anything, really. When it comes to audio processing, I prefer to just do it all myself, but then the devs get mad because it's like, hey, we already have this tool here and here and here, just use one of them. And no, I don't want to. Anyway, filters. What kind of filters do we want? I'm thinking... Actually, no, let's copy from the compressor effect, which I also programmed entirely by myself. I'm not stealing code. This is all my stuff that I already wrote. Though I think this tilt filter was from, I think I pulled it from a music DSP post. Has that site been renamed? It was a while ago. I'm not sure. Calc tilt filter, woo, to filter. Yeah, pretty sure somebody else made this specific algorithm, but as you can see, it's very simple. But having a filter before a distortion effect is generally just a fantastic idea. It really changes how how it sounds, which is what an effect does. It changes how things sound. So I'm thinking of just adding a simple tilt filter at first, and then after that, maybe we can go for something a bit more insane, like some sort of formant filter. Putting that before a distortion effect will make things go absolutely wild. But for now, let's just go with this. This was programmed back when I didn't know how programming works. Like, this is marked as inline, but it's in the CPP file. So I don't know if that even does anything. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it has to be defined in here to do anything. Unless maybe the compiler is smart enough to pull it out. I don't know. I don't know. Though actually, with that in mind, may as well define the whole thing in here instead. All right. There's our tilt filter. The input and the output, and then which filter it is. I know we have a variable to store the state of that filter. There it is. That it? I think so. Hold on. Oh yeah, right there. That's kind of a weird variable name. I'm not sure. Man, I am starving. Did I accidentally press the insert button? Huh. Okay, so sorry, I just suddenly got extremely hungry. I'm not sure why. I should eat something. But I lost my ability to think. I apologize. What happened there? Hold on, let's get back on track. Is that a spider on my wall? I think so. Oh, whatever. Array with two thingies in it. The two element array is what this thing is. Yes. Welcome to 2-element array town, where we have arrays that have 2 elements in them, and that is what this is. We use that to do the fancy filtering thingy, except we don't have the knobs, and I should probably get off my lazy butt and actually add some actual knobs here instead of just renaming current ones, because we actually need even more knobs. Fine. Here's what I'll do. I'll rename the frequency the frequency knob. It's a drive knob. I'll go through and rename it, even though I am lazy, and then I will copy and paste that knob over and over again to give ourselves even more knobs, and everything will be good. Woohoo. And that one, and that's done. You see, it's not that hard, but I just don't want to do it. For the tilt filter, if I remember right, you need a frequency and a gain. So this time we need a I could have just kept the frequency knob, because that's what we're we'll call it tilt frequency. Sure. Okay. Oops. There we go. And I'll just I'm just cloning this. I should be cloning it twice because we need 2 new knobs. Why No. No, where are we? We're here. Okay. Okay, that's the tilt frequency knob, and then we need the, why is this over here? Now we need tilt gain. For the gain, oh, and for those who don't know, a tilt filter, it does things. Ayo, what's up? Nope, that's the wrong button. You have, okay, so like there's your frequency balance. A tilt filter can go like that or like that, with that being the central point. So controlling the gain can make it go like that or like that, and then you can control the, so it's just kind of two shelving filters put together. Whether it's a good choice here, I don't actually know. I'm sure it's fine though. Tilt gain, gain, well, that's gonna be whatever, and 0, and then I'm just moving the knob out of the way. There's more. Tilt gain. No. Tilt gain, tilt gain, tilt gain, tilt gain. And the tilt frequency. And we need to worry about this. I don't know, 600, no, 400, sure. 20 and 20,000. And let's go with 24. 48. 48's cool. 48's a cool number. I'm making it logarithmic so it's easier to move around, because LMMS for some reason does not really have any convenient way to change knob scaling in any way, which is very sad. Is that everything? Seems like it. Okay, so now we hold on. Input sample, output sample, and what is that? What is that? Oh no, there's so many more steps. Oh, what have I gotten myself into? How sad, how sad. Okay, let's see how things go. Yeah, I thought it looked something like this. Okay. It is not as simple as I initially said it was, which should have been obvious to me. I just didn't, I just wasn't thinking about it. Obviously, you would want the coefficient calculation to be outside of the filter, since it only really needs to be calculated when parameters change. So, I don't know, I'll just move this whole thing over, sure. tilt value. So is that the frequency or the gain? That's the gain, right? Yeah. Okay. Why do we set a variable to it though? I don't really know what I was doing back then. Gosh, why do I feel so exhausted suddenly? It's like I feel sick. Just give me a few seconds. I don't know why I don't know why I'm suddenly feeling sick. Very dizzy. I've been staying hydrated. You guys have been hearing me drinking water. Man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to look through this. And fine. What was I doing though? Whew, I need to take my headphones off. Okay. Why do I feel sick? Feel normal, you fool. I accidentally pressed a button on my microphone. Is it all okay? I pressed the trash button. Okay, we're still recording. Okay. I'm not feeling great. I don't know what's happening. I suddenly forgot how to program. Please hold. Hopefully I will remember to edit this out in post. I'm going to use the bathroom. And threw it out along with everything else. So now I am completely empty, but I'm also fine. So, yay, I guess. We are recording, right? Yeah, file size, yeah, we're looking good. Okay, we're back to looking at, ew. No, I don't want to look at this. Okay, damn, what was I doing? You know what, I no longer, but see, if I change plans now, I'll have to add more knobs. I'm too lazy to add more knobs too. See, I've put myself in a situation where I have to choose to either not be lazy or not be lazy in another way, and I'm always lazy, so like, what do I do? What do I even do? Fine, okay, fine. This code is so ugly because I had no idea what I was doing. Like this compressor, like you use the compressor effect in LMMS, and you look at it like you're like, wow, this effect is insane. Well, that was like old me. I'm better than that now. I could have made something better than that. It probably would have been approximately the same. The look ahead would have been way better. I can at least say that. And the code would have looked way nicer. But I guess this is what we're stuck with. Do I really? I think I do. Okay. All right, fine. See, that's what a lot of this is, just copying and pasting from the work you've already done, or, well, in this case, the work somebody else did, because I didn't invent this filter algorithm. But, I mean, if I did, quote-unquote, invent my own, it would end up being exactly the same thing, and this is free to use for everybody, unlicensed and all, so... So I'm still a bit lost and disoriented. It'll take me a bit to get back on track, but right, next step is making it so that this filter actually runs to calculate the filter coefficients, which we will want to do whenever either of those two knobs move. Oh, this is going to be obnoxious, though. No, it isn't. No, it isn't, because we can... Okay, never mind. Ignore me. There's a simpler way. Okay, so... George... George... Georgia... George! George! Gain. Sure, and is this really the best way to do this? Almost certainly not, but we're doing it anyway, I guess. Oh, it's George Effect, actually. Okay. And then we tilt thing right there. Private slots is a Qt thing. Don't ask me to explain it. It's just a slot for this whole Qt event handling thing. When either these two knobs are moved, it'll run this function which calculates those filter coefficients. Let's check to see if this compiles. Once again, a lot of you may see what's happening on my computer and be like, wow, Linux sucks! No, it's just KDE kind of being funky. Like I said, I don't like KDE. I'm stuck with it because of a GNOME bug. I would much rather use GNOME, which is far better. Let's see. To big game. Well, why are we storing that? Do we really need to store that? We don't need to store that. Wait, is that just a totally unused variable? Hold on. What? Well, is this used? Oh, oh, I see. Is it used outside of this function though? I guess so. But I don't care. Man, RIP anybody who has watched this far and wanted to actually understand what's going on, because I don't know what's going on, so you guys certainly don't know what's going on, right? I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of letting the whole autopilot developer instinct thingy take control. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of doing things. Now's the stage where we just repeatedly look at what compilation errors there are to figure out what happens next, because science forbid we actually stop and think about things. Oh, right. Yes. Right. Yes, this is not the compressor. No, what did you do? Okay. Let's see. Like, the quality of this video went from like 0 to negative so fast. I don't know why I'm opening this, because we aren't even using the tilt filter right now. Close that. Go away. Okay, so we want to filter the input. You guys can tell I'm getting lazier and lazier as the video goes on. I'm not used to talking. It's actually really fatiguing me. So I'm kind of losing my ability to think. Hold on. There we go. Right, the input and then the output, which is the same thing, and then which filter it is, and we have 2 set up, 1 for each channel. Oh, right, the thing I was scared of. It depends on sample rate, doesn't it? I bet it depends on sample rate. Sample rate? Ah, man. What do I even do? Because the reason this is a problem is because we are using oversampling, which means I'm too lazy for this. We need to hold on, I know what we can do. Because oversampling will change the effective sample rate. So I guess what we're going to do, and yes, this code is horrible, I know. I'll fix it eventually. Probably not on video. Let's see. Oversample model. So now we have our effective sample rate, so we can use that instead of this. And then we need to make it so that this is recalculated every time we change the oversampling amount. That should work. Okay. And now we can simply say calc tilt filter. Just put it back into itself, and we use I for the channel. And I think, I'm pretty sure that should now be working. No. The answer is a firm no. A very confident absolutely not. Was it oversampling? What? Oh, right. We were too lazy to rename that. Ignore this. It's oversampling, not resonance. Okay. Let's try this again. Why? What did I just change? I changed that. Oh, is there? Oh, right. Take 3. Let's go. It's working. It's finally working. Woohoo! Woohoo! What has happened to me? Okay. Right, so there was some recent LMMS update. I don't know when it was, but it makes it so that it is now impossible for me to play a note and move a knob in a separate window at the same time. I don't know what changed that, but it's one of my least favorite things ever, and I'm ranting about it now. It's seriously, I am... Because one of my favorite things to do is to like play a note, and then I would double click on another knob and it would keep the note stuck. And I loved that because then I could just do whatever I wanted anywhere and the note would just keep playing and everything was fine. Now I have to do this and you have a dipper. I'm surprised it doesn't claim it's clipping. weird high frequency stuff I'm hearing. I don't know where it's coming from. Oh, it's from this. There we go. Okay, clearly, that ain't doing a thing. That ain't doing a thing. What's going on? It's I mean, it's right here. It's we just what? Hello? I don't know why it isn't doing anything. Let's see. Calculate tilt filter. It's here. And there's 0, B1. Output sample. Input sample. Output sample. We put the thing in the other thing, so it should work, but it's not. And I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why it isn't working. If it crashed the program, if it output silence, if it output some ugly noise, that would all be totally understandable. But in this case, it just isn't doing anything. It's not doing anything. And I don't know why. Why is it not doing anything? Why would anybody do anything? Why does anything do anything at all? Because if every effect has a cause, then surely there was no start to it all. But if there was no start, then how are things here? It is impossible that something could have put it here, because matter cannot be created or destroyed, and yet it is here. Why? Why is it here? Nobody knows. You just have like these 8 billion humans running around, and they live a full second per second, and there are a lot of seconds in an hour and a day and a week. Like, that's a lot of seconds, and every single one of those seconds you can just sit there and think, why? And people have done that, and you know what happens? They don't know. They spend years just in there thinking, why is anything? And nobody knows. Nobody has any idea, and then you have a bunch of people who claim to know. Never trust those people, because they're always demonstrably incorrect. Nobody has any idea, and it's so infuriating, because generally you stop and think about these things, and you can't truth anything as the truth unless you have a way to prove it. Generally, truth is just seen as something's, the default state of something is generally true. For example, it's kind of insanity to suggest that the universe has a border, because then you'd have to ask, okay, where is this border? How does this border work? What's outside of that border? If there's nothing outside of that border, what happens when you reach the border? So many unanswered things. In the end, it's an unfalsifiable proposition that has no evidence in favor of it other than, well, I mean, there's no evidence in favor of it. We just need, it's just an excuse. We get bothered by our lack of an answer, so we just make something up. We're like, oh, hey, universe has an edge. That makes sense. No, it doesn't, because there's no evidence for that. Like, we haven't seen any sort of edge or anything, so logically, I don't understand how anybody with a logically sound mind could look at this and think that there's just this mysterious border somewhere. Obviously, space must be infinite. So with that in mind, wouldn't kind of the default state of things be nothing existing at all? Not even empty space. Like, I don't understand how even empty space is. There shouldn't be any. Well, I mean, some people say there's no such thing as empty space, and I feel like they're probably right, but that's not really what I'm getting at here. There shouldn't be anything, but there's everything. Everywhere. And it's so frustrating because, like, using just standard logic, you could essentially, well, you couldn't prove that things exist, but there's no, see, it's kind of funny, like, in a way, there isn't really any evidence that anything exists except for your own personal observations, which really goes contrary to how all other things are proven, because when you prove anything else, you're like, okay, what can we observe? What do we know for sure? You know, you put the facts together, and you prove it, you know? While with things existing, following the same line of logic, I really feel like you just kind of have to conclude nothing exists, but it does, because I'm seeing it right now. So it's something I can't possibly deny, despite it not really making any logical sense. And it's so frustrating, because every single other thing in the universe, without exception, follows the basic rules of logic. There has been absolutely no violation of that in any way, shape, or form that I've ever seen, except for the fact that anything exists in the first place. Like, how? How did this happen? Because nothing could have caused it. Because that would be the creation of matter. So, nothing could have caused it. So how is it here? I'm not saying something put it here. We know nothing put it here. We know it's just here and has always been here. How? Like, if nothing caused it, like, I can't find the right words to really explain what I'm getting at here. Like, it's just, everything's just here and nobody knows why. And kind of like, by definition, that's not really the right word to use, but we can't ever say why it's here, because what we do know is that nothing put it here and that it's always been here. So we can't really say how it is here if it was never put here. But it's here. Why? But then you get to the point where, you know, life and existence, it's objectively purposeless. So you can't even really say why it's here, because there can't be a reason. So, but it's here. I don't even know what question to ask at this point. What words do I use? The who, well, we know the who is nobody. The what is just the everything, and then the where is the everywhere, and then why, I address that, how, I address that, but it's here, and I have questions, I don't know what they are. Programming! Let's see, sample rate. We were looking at what are we doing? Right, the filters don't even do anything. Why? I really have no clue. Hold on. Compressor. Gain goes from 6 to -6 in the frequency. Okay, nothing weird there. I'm tired. Blech. And I just woke up a couple hours ago. Well, a few hours ago, three hours or so. I don't know. I woke up kind of late. Okay, I'm actually really confused. Because we do run this, and we move both of those, which wobbles to this, while it runs this. The oversampling thing, and times input 2 to 0 to 1, so it's the 1 times that, so we have the effective sample rate. Reminder to stay hydrated. You're beginning to experience the life of an LMMS developer. You just see something and it doesn't work, and you sit there and ask, why don't you work? And when you find the solution, it is the most obvious thing you could ever possibly imagine. But until you find it, you're going to be so confused. What even is happening at this point? What am I looking at? What are these numbers? You have the tilt gain value, which is from the tilt gain value, which is from the you have the numbers and you move them and they're properly attached to the proper models: tilt gain model, tilt frequency model, and then you have the tilt filter. You have the input sample and the output sample, and it should just work, and it doesn't. It sets this variable filter non-0 should work. No. Hold on. The oversampling, because we'll be running it multiple. What am I doing? Hold on. No, that's the wrong thing to do. Yeah, that's not right. No, wait, what am I doing? No, what? No. Excuse me? No. We don't have multiple filters for that. No. We already have. We changed the sample rate there. You don't have I don't know what I'm doing. Ignore the past 30 seconds or wait, what? Unused variable effective sample rate? What? Oh wait, hold on. Oh, okay, I'm not worried about that. What? Where's the error? Oh. I don't care about that drop-down box. It's not doing anything right now. I don't really know why I'm opening this because we haven't fixed the issue. As can be heard. I get the feeling somebody watching this video, if anybody has bothered to watch this far, for some I don't really know why anybody would. I'm just kind of doing this for the sake of doing it, but I feel like somebody probably saw the issue by now. It's probably extremely obvious, and they're probably pointing and screaming at the screen, and they're going to be doing so for the next hour or so while I just look around and not actually get any closer to solving it until I see the glaringly obvious issue that is preventing it from actually working properly. Let's see. I really just don't understand how it's not doing anything. Like, once again, if it crashed, that would make sense. If it ruined the audio, that would make sense. If it made it output silence, that would make sense. But it sounds like it just isn't doing anything at all. And that's confusing. Because, I mean, it's being run through here. You set it with this stuff. It's input, but then, I mean, what is that stuck at 0 and then that's stuck at 0? Actually, that would make sense. No, because that would just make, wait, no, but it's input sample plus. Okay, now it suddenly makes more sense why it just wouldn't do anything. So now you have to ask why those variables are kind of set to, is it because I'm not initializing them? Hold on, wait, that could be the issue. Aha, that's no, wait, no, it's not. Nope, that's not it. I mean, I should do it anyway. I can hear you guys screaming at me through the screen, or through the, well, through something. I can tell you're pissed at me for not noticing the super obvious. Do we not initialize those with values at all? It doesn't look like we do. I don't think we need to. I mean, I could just to be safe, but I mean, I really don't think it's necessary. We can try it though. I very heavily doubt this will work though. Huh. Yeah, I didn't think so. I am so confused. And hungry, gosh. I think the fact that I'm recording is making me less capable of basic thought. Yes, I am blaming my skill issue on you, the viewer. It's all your fault. If I wasn't recording this, I surely would have figured this out by now. I've never had bug troubles in my life. Never even once. Whenever there's, well, there are never any bugs in my code, but when there are, which there aren't, I always find them instantly. Like 1-2 seconds tops, and that's on a really bad day, of course. Though, of course, that's never really an issue because I just program everything with my mind. I just think about the code and then it appears, you know, and runs perfectly first time, every time. Never even had a compilation error before in my life. Not a single one. Never even seen a quote-unquote seg fault, whatever that thing ever. I don't even know what the younger kids are into these days. I've never seen one. I'm pretty sure they don't even exist. Like, imagine writing code that doesn't work. Really couldn't be me. I don't. Okay. Wait. I need to remember the step we made. Shut up here. If I discover that this is the issue, I am going to be livid. But there's no way, right? Surely there's no way. Surely there's no way. I mean, that's how it's set up in the compressor. It shouldn't be a problem, right? 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 Oh, jeez. I can't stop yawning. I'm so tired. I don't know why I'm so tired. No luck. I don't think so, because it worked with the compressor. So, how long have I been staring at this one thing? There's no way anybody's watching up to this point, so I'm just kind of talking to the void now, right? Shut up. I don't like KDE. I want to go back to GNOME. You have this. It's a constant. It never changes. Okay, you divide by that. Cool. Then you have the G1, which is controlled by the tilt gain value, and like if it's greater than 0, it's that thing, and if it's not, then it's that thing, and it all depends, that's a constant too. So then you have the gain value, which is here, and it's controlled by this, and it's just the knob, which means it moves. And then this is controlled by this, and you have the 1 divided by the sample rate multiplied by theta that, and then it has the Is this not running? Oh, is this not running? Q object connect, no such slot. Calc tilt filters. Calc tilt coefficients. We have found the issue. Finally, and it, like I said, it was kind of obvious. Why isn't is there a typo? What's going on? Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah. I'm confused. It says effect, which, well, I mean, I don't know why. It should be. Hold on. This, George effect, the thing that has the this, this, which is this, which is, So, what's up? What's Well, I mean, this isn't even the proper way to be connecting things, is it? I mean, that's how we did it there, but I mean, like, it's kind of outdated, if I remember right. Isn't there a more correct way to do it? To pull up the phaser. We're still doing it the old way there. LAM. How about LAM? LAM is trustworthy. If there's ever a guy you can trust, it's LAM. Hello, LAM. Nope, I'm doing it the old way there as well. Okay, well... Looks like I may actually have to solve the problem. Okay. I know it's obvious, and I'm pretty sure I've had this exact issue before. My memory is just too bad. I can't even remember what the issue was. I mean how to... Yeah. You have the model and data change, and this, says this, which is this, which is this, because it has the this, that, So, So why is it not a problem here? I guess that's the question you should be asking. Why is it not a problem here? Compressor effect. See? And then private slots. It's right there. In compressor effect. Hey, hold on. Really? Is it this? Is that really the issue? That's not obvious at all. That's not obvious at all. I don't like that. I think the only reason I even noticed that was because this exact thing has happened like 1 trillion times. It just hasn't happened for a while, so I forgot about it again. I bet that's the exact issue. Undefined symbol. Undefined symbol? George, no! George, where'd you go? No! George is dead! No! Okay, whatever. Let's see. George, why do you do this to me? Okay, let's see. Hold on. I bet I'm just vaguely, just barely remembering this. I think George.h. And some of you have the question, hey Daniel, how did you know to do that? See, that's the funny thing. I didn't. It just appeared in my mind and I don't know why, but I suspect that it will work and I don't know why. I really have no clue because I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't have the slightest idea what I'm doing right now. You may think, oh wow, Daniel, what was the function of you modifying the CMake list thingamabob? I don't know. I legitimately don't. Like, I don't even know how to develop this program, but I'm doing it. What am I doing? Oh, and look, George is back. Hi, George. I don't know why that fixed it. And does the filter work? so. Yeah! Now this is real music. Oh, we didn't even have oversampling up all the way. That's kind of fun. Okay, so we have our drive, we have functional oversampling, and we have our tilt filter, which took way too freaking long to put together because I am a dummy. Cool. What next? How long has this recording been going on for? 2 hours and 55 seconds. Time, 12 o'clock. I think I can keep going. What else do I want to do? Okay, I have an idea. I have multiple ideas, but I have an idea for something to do right now. Just an idea. I thought, just an idea for a feature I thought up of in my head immediately. I'm going to call this. What am I going to call it? Recovery? No. Maybe? I mean, probably. What am I going to call this feature? Yeah. Recovery. Recovery, and here's the super fun part where we just copy and paste a bunch of stuff to get the knob in there. I really wish there was a faster way to do this. Tilt gain, tilt gain, tilt gain, and tilt gain. Let's see. Calling it recovery. I think this will sound cool, but kind of in a different way. It'll remove the square shape of the distortion, which means it won't be winning the loudness wars, but the loudness wars are cringe, so recovery. Okay. And for recovery, I will have it be from 0 to 1. I think y'all will really enjoy this feature. I think that's everything. Okay, so my idea for this, we're going to have 4 tilt filters instead of 2. Oh. I did just think of an issue with it though. Hold on, I'm thinking. I'm sorry for the long silence. I'm doing math. Huh. It's greater than. It's been so long since I've used this tilt filter, I don't really know what the purpose of G factor is. See if it's 1 greater than it's -5 and 1. Then if it's -1, it's 1 and -5. Okay. 2 are swapped. This is kind of an ugly solution. But I'm pretty sure this should work properly. I'm swapping those 2 variables. Okay, so this recovery feature, it's essentially going to apply the opposite of the tilt filter that you just applied to, and it's going to apply that to the output instead. So if you use the Right, I forgot recovery is a knob, not a toggle, obviously. I don't want to have to duplicate this whole coefficient calculation formula. That sounds horrible. We'll do it this way. Fine. I think those coefficients remain the same. I'll undo what I did here. Wait. Or maybe not. Well, I'll undo what? What am I doing? I will undo that and I'll make some other changes. In, out. Recover, gain, value. Recovery model. Okay. So we're going to want the negative of that. No. Negative of that multiplied by that. Doesn't actually matter where you put the negative, but that makes more sense. Okay. Recovery. Kind of bad variable naming, but I don't care. I think that's all we need there. Put out there. How's our disk space? Oh wow, that's pretty small. Why is it so small? 2 hours should not only be a gig, right? I'd have to cancel the recording to check to make sure I'm recording properly though. Okay. Oh. Right, it's lagging my whole computer. I'm at only 20 FPS. Well, less than that. All right then. Wait, does it encode with variable frame rate? I guess so. I don't know. All right, so then we put in and in, filter out. We add 2 to the filter number. This is such a horribly messy way to do things, but I just want it to work first, and then we can pretty things up later when, well, okay. I guess it isn't going to work. What's the error? Hello? Recovery knob. I think I accidentally pressed paste twice. Yep. There we go. Boop. Reminder to stay hydrated. And let's give it a test. Okay. Recovery's at 0 by default. Doesn't sound like it's doing anything at all, which is interesting. Recovery model, recovery gain value, in, out, out, out. I am a bit confused. Tilt filter in, tilt filter. Oh, well, yeah, my bad. We're processing the input variable when we should be working with the output, obviously. At least that was an easy fix, unlike the tilt filter earlier. Well, I mean, that's part of the tilt filter, but you know, I mean. That is a distortion plugin. Oh, I just love it when this is cranked up. So it distorts the high frequencies a ton, and then it barely distorts the low frequencies at all. And then the recover feature brings the low frequencies way back up and the high frequencies way back down. So you have the distortion timbre, but the overall frequency balance remains approximately, well, not really the same. You can hear that's way off, but you know, it does the opposite of the tilt filter on the output. That sounds so nice. I actually really love that. And then you can bring back the recover knob to try to bring back some of those higher frequencies. And the frequency lets you really choose where that really that hiss or whatever's going on. You can have a ton of control over that tone. Oops, sorry about that. The other direction isn't quite as pleasant because it removes all the bass when you have that up. Could be useful for some things, but it generally sounds better lower, I think. This is actually kind of the first time in my life working with a distortion plugin that has oversampling, and I'm really loving it. I haven't used any. I mean, I guess I've used Camel Crusher. I don't know if Camel Crusher is oversampling. I assume it does. Probably. I mean, there's nothing that indicates it does, but aside from maybe a couple VSTs, I've never worked with oversampled distortion before because I've just kind of worked with LMMS's plugins. This is sounding very nice, and the tilt filter sounds great. The recovery idea that I just barely thought of, I'm sure some other plugin out there has it by a different name, but that sounds fantastic here, especially when boosting the high frequencies in the input. Overall, starting to look like a very useful plugin, and all of that is with only 4 knobs plus the oversampling. That's actually kind of incredible. I really should end the video here, but I have one more idea that I would like to try to add. And it's kind of a bad idea for me to try to add it right now because I get the feeling it'll take a while. Nah, probably not. I've programmed tons and tons of compressors recently. What I'm about to make now isn't a compressor. It's actually exactly the opposite in a way. But it follows a lot of similar logic. So I may be able to pull something together I may be able to pull something together without it taking too terribly long. I've been working on LOM a lot recently, which is a stupidly good multi-band compressor I made entirely by myself. It'll make it into LMMS somewhat soon. But the reason I'm opening this up is because I am looking for I guess the attack and release value calculations. Nah, you know what? I don't care about that. Yeah, I don't care about that, actually. We can do this in a simpler way, I think. Okay, so I need another knob, unfortunately. I hate adding new knobs because it takes so long, but there isn't really any faster way to do it. I'm going to call it dynamics. Oh, something I should do with recovery. I made it so it's from 0 to 1. Maybe I should make it from 0 to 2 instead. Anyway, dynamics will be the name of the knob. And it'll take a bit for me to add that. All right. Dynamics. How long is this? There we go. There's the dynamics knob. Now we need to worry about the dynamics model. And this feature is going to be very cool, I think. Something that you'll find with almost every distortion plugin you ever use is that it very heavily compresses the sound, which sounds very good. It is generally a desirable effect. However, sometimes you want that really that super crispy distortion timbre without changing your dynamic range at all. So what I'm thinking of doing, I'm sure this has been done before, but I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody do it before, but I'm sure it's been done. I'm going to kind of measure the average amplitude over time, a moving average of the input volume. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Okay, so I'm going to have to measure I'm going to have to take a moving average of the input volume and the output volume, and then try to match the output volume to the input volume. And since it's a moving average, it will be interpolated just naturally. So it should sound perfectly fine. Main question just ends up being how quickly that moving average should, kind of how small that moving average window should be, how quickly that should adapt. Because if it's too fast, it'll add distortion, but if it's too slow, it'll just sound bad. But we can worry about that later. Let's see, average in, average out. And let's see, I think I'll just be taking we'll want the root mean, I think, right? Well, root mean square, RMS. So I kind of forget how to do that. Do you take the square root first, and then you take the average, and then you square it? I think so. Oh wait, I do it in the compressor. I think you take the square root and then you take the average and then you... You see, I call this RMS. I don't think I even did the root mean square. I think I just did the mean square. Yeah, so we actually squared the input, and we didn't take the square root of anything. Or maybe we took the square root afterwards. Oh, yep, okay. So it's the opposite of the way you say it. You square it, and then you take the average, and then you take the square root of the output. Oh yeah, the root of the average square. I see. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I actually have very severe memory disorders, like memory loss, and it keeps getting worse. So I have to relearn things a lot. And a lot of times people see the things I develop and they ask, wow, how do you develop these things so quickly? I don't. I just put a lot of time into it. I'm talking like 10 hours a day, just full brute force. I'm really not the kind of person who's even capable of being an efficient developer. I just work really hard at it, and it works out. Okay, so I'll call this RMS then. The RMS of the input and the RMS of the output. I guess we would want it to be, yeah. I think we want it to be unlinked as far as stereo stuff goes. So we'll be doing it once per ear. And it doesn't really matter whether I do it before or after the filter, but I think I'll do it before the filter. Does it not matter? Actually, it does kind of matter. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. It does matter, I think. Hold on. Hold on. So tired. It does matter. I'm just kind of wondering which would be best. I think it would sound best if it followed the dynamics of the actual original input audio. RMS in. I'm just going to hard code a magic number there and hope it's not bad. Make sure we square that. Okay, and then we scale the output by I can already smell the zero division errors, but I won't worry about it. For now, of course, I will worry about it later. I think we do need to take the square root here. And like that. Oh, like, yeah. I think that's it. Oh, wait, duh. Dynamics, okay. This probably is not the most efficient way to do this, but it is the laziest way, I think. So we're going to blend between no change and this amount of change, depending on the value of dynamics. I guess we'll see what compilation error that gives us. Oh, well, I saw something. I don't want to scroll up. Okay. Dynamics model was not declared in this. Distortion. Distortion. Huh. And still busted. Yeah, I'm too lazy. Give me something to copy and paste. Fine. Wait. Oh, we already have that included. What's the issue then? We'll worry about this first. Oh, I know why it's given that earlier error. We can fix it all here. Where am I? Here we go. Right, we had it. We have it as an array, you know, for each channel, so we can't just use it as, you know. Oh, I'm so exhausted. I just barely woke up like 4 hours ago, and I'm already tired. I don't know why. Probably because of the commentary. Talking is very difficult for me. I have to put a lot of conscious effort into it. Oh, hey, it compiled, and I'm opening LMMS. Okay, I didn't even. I'm working on autopilot here. Let's see how this sounds. Let's calm that down a bit. So I'm pretty sure that's not what's supposed to happen, but it accidentally sounds kind of cool. Uh-oh. That's the zero division error. I can't really tell what's going on. I think it's... Maybe it's this. Oh, wait, whoa, hold on. What are these numbers? What are these numbers? Hold on. Okay. That should work better. I feel like I need to worry about the whole zero division thing, but I don't really know how. Oh, also, let's not start at 0. It's kind of a bad idea. Now I'm too lazy to fix the zero division error. I'll worry about that later. I just want to hear this work. How long have I been recording for? Two hours and 40 minutes. That's a long time. I just noticed the limiter was messing things up. Let's try this again. Oh, the track is yeah, Learn a Magic Trick by Kuzmo, by the way. I don't know why this sounds weird. Hold on. Well, okay, I guess that maybe that's just normal. Sure. Okay, and then we have this. Something's wrong here and I can't tell what it is. Oh, wait. Okay, let's not do that. Let's not do that. That's, you know, how about we don't do that? How about we, don't... Hey... there we go. Though now it... I'm trying to figure out how to keep the volume out of control. I mean, keep the volume in control so that we can properly hear what this is doing. Because I think it's very cool, but the issue is when I turn it up, everything gets way quieter, and then I have to mess with the volume and, you know. See, look at this. We have the drive cranked to 100 times. 100 times the volume being sent straight into a hyperbolic tangent function, but because of this dynamics feature, we still have all the dynamic range of the original material. That sounds so cool. This is the original. I'm a genius. Listen to that. Sounds awesome. It's so distorted, but the dynamics are still there. It's like a totally different sound, but you can usually tell when somebody is distorting the crap out of something. Like, you hear that massive sausage and you're just like, yeah, they distorted that thing. This, it's distorted, but it has dynamics and it still has all of the life in it that the original material had. Sounds great. I love this. If we just remove all the tilt filter shenanigans and only have the distortion. Turn up the dynamics. So it doesn't sound the best in this part because there's a ton of bass being sent directly into here. We could fix that with the tilt filter, but over here, it's so distorted, but the dynamics are still there. I know, I already said that a billion times, but it's cool. This sounds great. So now we have 5 knobs plus the oversampling, and we already have this really cool distortion unit, which is quite exciting. And it isn't even multi-band or anything. I think I probably want multi-band stuff to be in a separate plugin that'll be horribly complex, and I definitely won't be recording myself making it because it'll probably take a few months once I finally get around to it. But this is cool. This is really cool. And it was relatively bumpless, aside from the incident with me adding the tilt filter and then not realizing we needed the Q object thing here. Aside from that major hiccup, we got this done pretty quickly. It's only been a few hours without the whole tilt filter chaos. It probably only would have been a couple. And if I had all this planned out from the beginning, maybe it would have taken an hour, 30 minutes, less. But overall, very cool plugin. Very happy with where it is so far. I really should end the video. I'm thinking I'm trying to figure out if there's some other feature I could quickly add before I top it off, but it's distortion, and it has the tilt filter on the input, and then just one convenient knob for that same general texture on the output. And then we have this super cool dynamics feature, so you can have it so distorted all the way, crank it up to 100, literally 100 times the volume, and you still have the dynamics. I love this. This is great. This is insane. One of the coolest things I've ever put into such a tiny number of knobs. I can't think of anything. I can definitely think of tons of other things I can add. Just nothing I'd really want to do in the video. Nothing that'd be particularly quick and easy or whatever. Don't really have any specific direction with it. Just kind of been planning it out as I go along. So I guess I'll end the video here. If you've watched this long, what are you doing? And I hope y'all have a fantastic day. How do it's this, and then you click. Wait. Oh yeah, I have Control R as the hotkey. Then save, and then I press stop on the microphone. Goodbye. Boop.